In a small town nestled near the hills lived a couple named Jack and Emily. Their home was a tiny weathered house with peeling paint and a creaky porch, but it was filled with love. Jack worked as a handyman, fixing fences, repairing roofs, and doing odd jobs for the townsfolk. His earnings were meagre, but they managed. Emily stayed at home, tending to their small garden and sewing clothes for the neighbours for extra money. Though life wasn't easy, their love was a constant source of warmth, making the burdens feel lighter. Every evening Jack would return home covered in dirt and sweat, but the sight of Emily standing on the porch with her gentle smile made his fatigue disappear. Their meals were simple, bread, beans, and sometimes a bit of meat, but they ate together, laughing and sharing stories from their day. They had little, but what they had was enough because it was built on love, respect, and the small moments they cherished together. Things in the town started to change when Thomas, a wealthy businessman, moved into the grand mansion on the hill. Thomas had inherited his family's fortune and expanded it through shrewd investments. He was known for his luxury cars, expensive suits, and his ability to make people feel small just by walking into a room. Every time he passed through the poorer part of town, he couldn't help but notice Jack and Emily's humble home. He would often slow his car, his eyes lingering on Emily as she worked in the garden or swept the front porch. There was something about her simplicity that intrigued him. One afternoon, while Jack was out fixing a neighbour's roof, Thomas decided to pay Emily a visit. He pulled up to their home in his sleek black car, stepping out with an air of confidence. Emily, who was hanging laundry on the line, looked up, surprised to see him. "Emily, right?" Thomas asked, flashing a charming smile. "I've seen you around town. How do you manage here in this little place? You deserve better." Emily, caught off guard, hesitated before responding. "We get by," she said simply, her voice soft but steady. Thomas took a few steps closer, his expensive shoes crunching on the gravel. "I don't see how," he said, glancing at the worn shutters and the threadbare clothes hanging on the line. "Jack can't give you what you deserve, Emily. Look at this place. Look at you. A woman like you should be living in comfort, not struggling day after day." Emily's heart clenched at his words, but she stood firm. "Jack works hard," she said. "We may not have much, but we're happy." Thomas chuckled, shaking his head. "Happy? Is that what you call this? Happiness is having choices, Emily. It's not scraping by every month, wondering if you'll have enough to pay the bills. It's not watching your husband break his back while you make do with scraps." His words planted a small seed of doubt in Emily's heart, though she tried to shake it off. Thomas, sensing her hesitation, leaned in. "I could give you so much more," he said, his voice smooth. "You could have fine clothes, a beautiful home, and never have to worry about money again. All you have to do is let me take care of you." Emily's face flushed, not from desire but from anger. "You think I'd leave Jack for money?" she asked, her voice rising. Thomas shrugged, unfazed. "Not just money, Emily. a better life, comfort, security. You're too good for this town, for this life. Think about it. Emily stood still as Thomas's words echoed in her mind. He gave her a last, lingering look before getting back into his car and driving away, leaving Emily alone with her thoughts. When Jack returned home that evening, he found Emily quieter than usual. She served dinner, but her mind seemed elsewhere. Jack noticed, but said nothing, assuming she was just tired. Over the next few days, Thomas continued his visits, each time planting more seeds of doubt in Emily's heart. He spoke of expensive vacations, fancy restaurants, and a life of ease, contrasting it with Jack's worn-out boots and aching hands. One evening, after Thomas had left, Emily sat on the porch, staring out at the stars. Jack joined her, sensing something was wrong. "You've been quiet lately," he said gently, taking her hand. Emily hesitated before speaking. "Do you ever wonder what life could be like, Jack? If we had more, if we didn't have to struggle all the time?" Jack looked at her, surprised. "Of course, I think about it," he said. "But I don't mind working hard as long as we're together. I'd rather struggle with you than live in luxury without you." Emily's heart ached at his words. She knew Jack loved her, but Thomas's voice echoed in her mind. "But what if there's more out there for us, Jack? What if we could have a better life?" Jack frowned, sensing where this was coming from. "Has Thomas been talking to you?" Emily looked away, guilt flashing in her eyes. "He's just been visiting. He says we could have more, that I deserve better." Jack's grip on her hand tightened. "Emily, don't listen to him. He doesn't know what we have. Money can't buy the kind of happiness we share." But Emily's mind was clouded with doubt. The next day, when Thomas arrived, she didn't send him away. Instead, she let him talk, his words weaving a web of temptation around her. He showed her pictures of his mansion, invited her to see the world with him, and promised her everything she had never dreamed of having. Slowly, Emily began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, Thomas was right. Days passed, and the distance between Jack and Emily grew. Jack noticed her lingering silences, her absent-mindedness, and the way her eyes seemed to drift toward the hills where Thomas's mansion stood. He felt his heart breaking, but he didn't know how to reach her. One evening, Emily stood at the crossroads, the sun setting behind the hills. She knew that Thomas would be waiting at his mansion, ready to sweep her away from her simple life. But as she stood there, torn between the promise of wealth and the love she shared with Jack, she remembered the moments that had defined their life together. The laughter, the shared struggles, the quiet nights under the stars. She thought of Jack's hands, rough from work but always gentle with her, and his unwavering devotion, no matter how little they had. Tears filled her eyes as she realized what she was about to give up. No amount of money or luxury could replace the love that had built their life. She turned back toward home, her heart heavy but sure. When she reached the porch, Jack was sitting there waiting for her, just as he always had. "I'm sorry," Emily whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I let myself get carried away." Jack stood, pulling her into his arms. "It's okay," he said softly. "I understand. But remember, Emily, we may not have much, but we have each other. That's more than any amount of money can buy." As the sun disappeared behind the hills, Emily rested her head on Jack's shoulder, knowing that she had made the right choice. Their life would never be easy, but it would be filled with the kind of love that no wealth could ever replace.